Black revolutionaries, distillery owners, Italian fashion retailers, and Motown Grammy winners all share their best stories never before told in any other media outlets on Detroit is Different. Visit DetroitisDifferent.com or download the Detroit is Different app on Apple's App Store or Google's Play Store.
All right, we are back in full effect in the Detroit is Different podcast studios. I got somebody in here that's definitely been handling some business and connecting to the Detroit community his whole life. Somebody that I look up to when it comes to mitigating a lot of what you got to do to be in business, working within the space of doing business in the city, doing business in the neighborhood. And it's funny because we basically same age, but he stays at it. Jay, how you feeling?
What up, though?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right, so let's start this how we usually start the Detroit is Different story. How did you get into the city of Detroit? What led your family to Detroit?
So as far as I know, my grandparents, they came up from the South, as most, stories. Came up from the South for opportunity. And, so my family just kind of, planted their flag in Michigan.
What city? Or what place?
Well, Detroit. It's South. My grandfather, I believe, is Arkansas. My grandma, Louisiana.
Okay.
I believe, and I'm actually still doing a lot of research as far as like digging into, their histories and where they come from. Yep.
Okay.
So I actually just found, on my Rayford side, I wasn't as connected, into that story. So I just kind of been diving in and connecting with people on Facebook with the same last name, man, and trying to, connect some dots, man. So I've been getting a little closer, man. It's awesome.
It's like, I don't think I'm your cousin.
Right. Like, forget it. If you're a Rayford,
scam is this?
Listen, if you're a Rayford, you're my family. That's how we roll now. You know what I mean?
Who is this? Do you want some money?
Right. But no, seriously, like on Facebook, man, like it got to the point where, a lot of us with that last name were just connecting, adding each other on Facebook and everything like that. Like, bro, we were related in some way. Because it's not that common of a last name.
It's not. So. It is not. And as you speak about it, I'm just joking, but a lot of people I know have done that and reached out and connected to more of their people. Where in Michigan? Where in the city? Where in Michigan did you guys
primarily Detroit. I do have some relatives up in Saginaw, up that way. But primarily Detroit.
Okay. What neighborhood?
Grew up in the kind of Joy Road, Southfield area. My grandparents had a home like Outer Drive and 6 Mile.
Okay.
So over there, primarily, pretty much, I tell people both sides of Southfield Freeway. Between 96, like on both sides.
Okay.
That's kind of where we were.
So basically, you grew up in that Cody neighborhood.
Yeah, went to Cody High School. Yeah. I moved to the other side of Southfield, and I was supposed to go to Cooley, but all my friends were at Cody, so I was like, we just go stay there. So we bust over.
Okay.
Back and forth. Yeah.
All right, and then that's also the River Rouge neighborhood.
Yep. So I went to Lessinger Middle School over there about where it used to be Rouge Park, Dixon Elementary, which Lessinger is now Dixon. It's crazy, but Dixon, the physical structure no longer exists, but it was right over there, not far from Dearborn. So my community was very, diverse, from that standpoint, being that close to Dearborn.
Okay, and I just had an interview with Gabby, Gabrielle Knox, who's a heck of a poet that kind of grew up in that neighborhood as well. And the culture there is a little bit different, it still seems like, especially because Rouge Park is such a asset to the city and being right there. And it's so big.
Oh, yeah, it's huge, man. Like, for a long time, I didn't even realize how deep Rouge Park went. Like, you can drive like through it for quite a while. So it's a beautiful place, man. I remember growing up in those family fun days, just to be there. I think Brandy. I remember seeing Brandy there and all that kind of stuff. But man, it was a great place. I mean, we went. When it was winter, we would go on a hill over there, go sledding. I mean, all that kind of stuff, man. So and that was in my backyard. That was dope.
And then the the Buffalo Soldiers sometimes would be around there.
Yep, the horses. Yep.
The old dudes playing chess would be out there.
Yeah, they used to have what I really enjoyed growing up was it would be folks over there take their planes, their little model planes or not model planes, but like their remote control planes. So people used to have like these incredible like planes that they would fly around there, and I thought that was just so dope. Never got one of my own, but it was dope to see them. Yeah, every weekend we would see them out there, and it was really dope.
And Exit 9 now is like so like as people think of it, it's like, oh man, that's the Murder McDonald's.
Right. Is it still called Murder Mac?
Yep. So as much as that's going on, it's families, but it's other elements in that community too.
Yeah, I mean it's I think it's been identified as the highest population of kids in that area. So as far as a lot of organizations are really focused on how to improve that area and provide programming for children over there too. So. Yeah.
All right, and growing up, your parents, grandparents, what were they working? You said the plant kind of brought them up, but where at?
So I can't remember exactly. I mean, where my grandfather worked. I don't think I actually remember where he worked specifically. My grandma, probably. Probably I can't even remember. But my grandma, she used to work in the nursing homes and stuff like that. So I remember the last place she worked was at a nursing home over there on what is that? Right by the Home Depot on the what's that?
7 Mile and Myers.
Myers, yep. So it's a nursing home over there that she. I think that was the last place that she worked or retired from. So, yeah, man. I mean, they were just some. I mean, my grandma. I mean, it's crazy because like I grew up thinking about it. Like I don't actually remember my grandma going to work. I just remember her always. She had the meals ready. She, you know, what I'm saying, she was just that quiet force of a presence. You know what I mean? Like I never remember her yelling or anything like that. She was just very like, kind of had this kind of like style and composure about her that was kind of like. I felt like kind of unique, I guess. Other than the other big mama stories that were very like saying. Had to take care of everybody. Whereas my story is kind of different where I never grew up knowing what a deadbeat looks like, a deadbeat dad. So my grandfather was present. My grandma had other kids that he was present for. My other uncles and stuff like that, had kids that they fathered that weren't theirs. My dad, when he married my mom, she had other kids that he, cared for before they had me. And things like that, man. So I mean, stories is a little bit different from that angle of like, I don't know what a deadbeat dad looks like.
Yeah, so that's definitely different, especially growing up in our communities, because even on my own block, my father and Mr. Bastida were the present in-home fathers consistently throughout our childhood. And then you had Big James that was sometimes transient in and out, but other than that, like the presence of fathers was not as present. So many of my friends would be like, man, you got a dad.
Right.
Yeah, man. So brothers and sisters. Spoke to it.
So I tell people all the time that I'm the youngest, oldest, and only child all at the same time. So with my mom, before she met my dad, she had two girls and a boy. And when my parents married, they only had me. They got divorced, and my dad remarried. They had 2 girls and a boy. Okay. So, yeah.
Okay. So for a while, you were the only child.
For a short period of time.
Like pseudo.
Well, I mean, my siblings, they were kind of in and out. They were, at that age where they were kind of trying to be grown and live on, do their own thing or whatever. Yeah. So, but my dad still had a presence in their life. Like even now, when my older siblings see my dad, it's like all love. Like they respect the guy so much. You know what I mean? Okay. So I definitely want to go through like what was that being like a youngest, and then how did you take that to transition to being an oldest? Right.
Like, did you go through the same lesson? Like did you let your little brother win in basketball early on, or were you like, no, I'm taking it to you like Kobe?
So no, my older siblings, man, like I said, they were kind of transient, man, and were figuring out their own lives and stuff like that. My older brother was kind of like incredibly smart guy, but got into hanging around the wrong people type of thing. So he I would visit him in like juvie and stuff like that or whatever. Yeah. So I had kind of like an example of like what to learn from in a sense, or not even just what to learn from. From a negative standpoint, but also just from a you know what I'm saying, holding your own, and, you know what I'm saying, like, you know, like, no matter what, I got this, you know what I'm saying, that kind of determination and just sheer will that I got from my older siblings. And then, you know, with my dad, you know, with my younger siblings, it was a little bit of, you know, I had, you know, bump heads with my stepmom, you know what I'm saying? So I, you know, ran away from home a couple of times here and there and stuff like that. So, but with my little sisters, man, like it was, you know, like it was a mixture of, you know what I'm saying, being super excited, but then also being super frustrated because they took up all the attention, you know what I'm saying? Like, it was just always about them and just like, you know, that type of thing.
And learning that balance.
Yeah. And then for my little brother, man, it was a little bit different because at that time, you know, I was older at that point in time because he was the youngest. You know, I was transitioning away from home, you know what I'm saying, quite a bit. And for me, it was more, me and his relationship was very much like, you know what I'm saying, kind of like a, you know, in a coaching kind of sense, you know what I'm saying? But he was also like, you know, he was a solid little guy, you know what I'm saying? So we roughhouse all the time, you know what I'm saying? All that kind of stuff too. But he's grown up to be, you know what I'm saying, the pretty much the filtered version of myself, you know what I'm saying? Just kind of determined. I mean, he's a designer, illustrator, you know what I'm saying, graphic design type deal. Just creative. I mean, I bought a guitar because I wanted to learn how to play. Got too busy. He picked it up, taught himself how to play. Wow. You know what I'm saying? Like, even when I was younger, I would draw and all that kind of stuff, but never took it anywhere. I wanted to go to CCS, you know what I'm saying? All of that. What did he do? Taught himself how to draw, went to CCS. Wow. Okay. So, like, it's been a beautiful thing to see, man. And then oftentimes he'll just, like, kind of thank me for, you know what I'm saying?
Laying some of those
Yeah, but I'm just like, bro, like, Don't give me the credit. You know what I'm saying? You saw something that you were interested in and you went for it, man. Mm-hmm. Like, that's all you right there. You know what I mean? So, just want to, you know, continue to support, man, as best I can.
So, as we talk a little bit about that, what were you into along this journey? Because your story, as you talk about your relationship with your father being ever present, but many children through a divorce and, you know, stepmom, and then what that looks like can be a tough transition, and you do find yourself being more independent as things, you know, go on.
For sure.
And at any age, as when my mom passed in 2017, just changes in seeing my father, and just, you know, our relationship has changed. Even my father's relationship with my sister has changed, but also seeing my dad, like, kind of in his dating journey was unique, especially for my sister. So I can only imagine what that was like, because all my sister kept bringing up was like, I can only imagine what this would have been like if I was 10.
Right.
I never really put it into perspective. Like
right. So I was much younger at that time when my parents divorced. So I don't really have much memory of them together, actually.
Yeah.
But one thing that kind of stuck with me as far as, you know, saying my dad, you know, getting into being remarried or whatever, was that they never showed me any animosity that they had toward each other.
Yeah.
When my dad would take me to my mom, he would chill and kick you for a little bit. You know what I'm saying? They laugh, joke, whatever, then he'd leave. And I would stay there with my mom. But, like, that was the relationship that I always saw. I always saw that mutual respect. Like, although we not together, you know what I'm saying, we still got this kid. But also, like, yo, you were an important part of my life, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, it ain't all hate, you know what I'm saying, or whatever, no matter what is the reason why we, you know, they split or whatever. But, you know what I'm saying, that actually carried on into how I, you know what I'm saying, because I have children that are, you know what I'm saying, I'm with somebody else now, you know what I'm saying, they're with their mom, and my attempt to be, you know, this kind of like, hey, I want my kid to see us being peaceful with each other, being, you know, amicable, you know what I'm saying, but also being able to do family stuff. Like, yeah, we're going to go to the movies. Yeah, all three of us, you know what I mean? You know, that type of thing. So
like a healthy co-parenting relationship.
Right.
As, you know, some of these things are being defined, especially in our culture, just as a lot of things are being defined in Black culture, African-American culture. You saw that as a child.
Right.
Which is definitely not the pervasive narrative on you know, the media. It's usually like, the dad didn't care, he was a deadbeat, or the baby mama crazy.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
and you know what I'm saying, I'm not saying that my mom wasn't crazy. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know what he actually dealt with outside of that, but they never let me see that. You know what I mean? And I thought that was important. And it kind of, like, definitely, you know, has affected the way that I try to manage my co-parenting relationships, too.
Okay, so as this goes on, your journey, high school, you said Cody. Cody's one of those schools like Northwestern. I'm Northwestern grad. There's a lot of stuff in Cody. It's like a printing press. a photography studio. It's like Cody is a huge building. I only imagine right now with DPS, they're probably using like 20% of it or whatever. But when you went there, because we're around the same age, I'm sure you knew of so much of what was in there. I don't know how active everything was.
When I first went there, man, we still had home ec that was there. I didn't get a chance to take advantage of it, but I saw it. We had driver's ed that happened right outside. We had a little track and everything right outside, which was really dope. I also participated in vocational school, so I went to Bright Hop Career and Technical Center, which was a game changer for me. It was literally my home away from home, but I went there for computer-aided design and drafting. So what happened is actually at Votech, I was able to participate in robotics and had the time of my life doing robotics. Friends used to be teasing and like, bro, you doing that nerdy nonsense, whatever. I'm just like, listen, y'all don't understand when we go to these competitions, them ladies, bro, they didn't understand.
No, they were not checking.
I'm like, listen.
Shout out to Eric Thomas, another robotics.
Right, yep.
He was a heck of a champion at that too. Now, the chief storyteller.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I for the first time, so I didn't play sports. In high school, I did Barney McCloskey baseball, which is a sports program that was in on Druid Road. That I think they offer baseball and basketball, and so I had a heck of a time playing baseball, but didn't follow through to middle school and high school. So robotics became kind of my sport.
Outlet.
So I actually had the opportunity to see what it looks like to build a team, to see what it looks like to make decisions as a team, to go out. And actually, I was actually on the front line. So like literally competing the robots, I was one of the controllers of the robot. So I was always up front and center, for the first time in my life. You know what I'm saying? Like, wow. We're talking about like folks screaming. We got buttons that, everybody wanted our buttons because we had like this robotic dog with the tail, had a light on it. So, everybody was just like, yo, let me get them buttons. It was a whole full experience. And we actually went to national competition in Disney World. So they shut down Epcot for thousands of robotics kids. You know what I'm saying? And had the time of my life. Man.
Wow.
But I ended up taking that experience back to my high school and talked to one of my science teachers, and we ended up creating the robotics team at Cody also, which I was partial to because I was part of the one at Bright Hop. But, they were able to partner with Ford and because they actually was a robot. They ended up having a partnership with, I think it was Ford or to bring in like to teach kids how to pretty much control robots for the assembly lines. So we actually had one of those. It was from Nuke Robotics, I think, and or Fanic, however you say it. But we were able to bring that program to Cody, which was really dope. And I don't even know how many people actually know that I'm the reason why there's a robotics team at Cody.
Robotics team at Cody.
Yeah, man. But it was an amazing experience, man. But it was cool at Cody because also some folks, some friends that I grew up with, I had some older folks that, when I went there, they were already seniors and stuff like that. So
so you had instant cool.
Yeah, well, not necessarily instant cool, but, because they separated ninth grade from the rest of the school, right? So there was this other wing of the school, basically, that was all ninth graders. So we were kind of separated. So I didn't get to take advantage of the full
instant cool,
instant cool factor. Like, yo, that's like right. Wow. Like, yo, y'all know each other. Like, yeah, man, that's like my big brother. But yeah, man, it was high school was cool, man.
Okay, after high school.
So after high school, man, I did. So during high school, I was doing an internship at GM actually, which again credit to Bright Hop Career and Technical Center. Got the opportunity to do an internship at GM out in Warren. So I used to have to take that trek. On that bus, take 3 buses. I had to get up at like 5:30 in the morning.
If you coming from like that neighborhood, let me guess.
Puritan and Southfield all the way to Warren.
I've been a bus taker. I've been a bus taker for a while. I would probably take the Yeah, the Southfield to 8 Mile, and I guess the 8 Mile down.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think, let me see, what I think that's the road I took.
You could sort of maybe cut some.
I think I cut some because I think I remember taking 3 buses, but something dropped me off right at 8 Mile in Van Dyke or whatever. Okay. So I don't think I took that, but that was the 8 Mile bus there. Mm-hmm. But either way, I had to get up super early in the morning to go do that or whatever. So much so, this was 11th grade. So they ended up hiring me, bringing me back again for the second year, just because they saw that kind of, I guess, the hustle, me being there, taking a bus. I mean, I was the only person taking the bus there. Everybody else had cars and all that kind of stuff, getting dropped off. Yeah. And they which was different because, usually you only get a one-time opportunity to do that, the internship. So they brought me back again, and I distinctly remember at orientation, they were just like, yeah, we had one student, he was catching the buses to get here. I was just like, you gotta be embarrassed like this. Like, who's taking the freight? Right, like what? So basically, they kind of used me as an example of determination and hustle. Like,
tenacity.
You don't have no reason to be late if this guy's catching buses.
You were like, you were like that one guy they did that story on that was like walking like 20 miles to work through a snowstorm. They were like, you definitely should not be late.
Right.
You live down the street with the car.
Right.
It's like, oh man, I was in the Coney Island.
And that was funny. I used to get there so early that I used to be in that Tim Hortons, like a Tim Hortons is like right there on the corner.
Yeah.
And come to find, years later, I met a woman that owns that Tim Hortons. I was like, and it's a black woman. And I was thoroughly impressed. I'm like, you have no idea how much money I spent at your place.
I kept you alive.
I would have probably spent more knowing it was black owned, you know what I mean? But
I kept you going.
It was hilarious to meet that lady. I met her on the Black College tour. Okay. She was one of the chaperones. And I was like, wow.
Ain't that something?
But yeah, man, so I bring up
the free coffee
for nah. It's like, no, I need all that money. But I bring up that story, GM, because the natural progression for that internship was to go to like a community college or whatever the case may be and still continue the internship.
Yeah.
That year, the year I graduated, they changed it to you needed to go to a 4-year university. Huh. I was already enrolled in what they call it.
WC3 or Henry Ford?
Henry Ford. Okay. I was doing the middle college program.
I got you.
And so
I'm a Henry Ford grad too.
Nice.
So shout out to what are they? The Hawks?
Is it? Like,
yeah, I know. It's like,
so I didn't even stay there. I mean, because after that, they kind of pissed me off at that. I was like, bro, like I'm already enrolled. I'm already got classes and everything. Like I'm going all the way over here to all the way out here.
Between both.
I'm sorry, not Henry Ford. It was Macomb at that time.
Oh, MCC.
Yeah, I was going all the way over there.
Oh, yeah, that's far. Because Henry Ford would have been like down the street from me.
Yeah, I forgot. That was Macomb. So I took a couple classes there during that time or whatever. They changed it on me. So when I graduated, I ended up getting an opportunity at this company that was not too far from where MC3 was. Mm-hmm. But the crazy thing is I got that job because of robotics. It was a company that designed robotics on the assembly lines. Mm-hmm. And so, it's just crazy how, my Detroit public school education opportunity opened up those kind of doors.
Opportunity for you to be working fresh out of high school.
Yeah. So I'm super a proponent of vocational schools, man. Like that, I think they're a game changer, whether you're going to college or not, but just to get your feet wet in a skill set, that you can take on. Beyond. So I'm able to I went to Bright Hop for computer-aided drafting, and I did robotics at Bright Hop, and I ended up having a career after high school doing CAD for robotics. It's crazy.
Now let's talk a little bit about that too, because I was a little older when I had my first career job, and I still had the mentality of a young person. But what was it like being so young in a career job? Because being 18, working next to somebody that was 60.
Right.
Exactly. I was a truck driver early on. I don't even know what year that was. So I was probably 23, maybe 24. And it was a big cultural shift for me to be working next to this is a grown man.
grown.
I'm so used to Taco Bell and Pizza Hut, just, jobs, not careers.
Yeah, for sure. So, that was definitely eye-opening for me. Definitely being the only black person there, but also the youngest person there. So it was pretty crazy, man.
How did you adjust?
I mean, I think that, again, with my experience, being able to go through GM, doing an internship there, just the way that Bright Hop, prepared me, the teachers at Cody High School that, saw something in me before I saw something in myself. I think I was prepared for the experience of being there, but definitely just, wake up call to, like, dang, why isn't more of me here? You know what I mean? Like, and just what that looks like. And I think those were the early sparks of me wanting to create ways for young people to get exposed to these type of careers that one, you don't need a 4-year university education to do. Like, if you can do this work and you can show us that you can do it, you in here. You know what I mean? Similar to how coding is now. You know what I'm saying? CAD was kind of that for me. And so, at that time, I started trying to come up with an organization to where I wanted other young people that, that I met that were doing career-based stuff, pretty early on, to be able to talk to younger people and saying, like, yo, like, you don't have to wait until you get older to actually get serious about your life. You know what I mean? Like, you can, like, there's opportunity out here now.
and then let's also talk about the other flip side of that. Just seeing career-based money at 18. What was that like for you? Because it's just, huh?
Right. So not long after that, I ended up kind of getting one of my first places. So I was there, let's see, this is 2000. This is after, right around 9/11. So for the first time in my life, I get laid off. So it's just like, that nice little money, you know what I'm saying, and then realizing what a...
Yeah, budgeting usually does not come to mind for an 18-year-old. It's like I get $1,200 every check, so I figure
like I'm good.
I can have rent paid with one check, and then I'm living off
listen, like, even if I'm late on rent, like, I'm good. I'm about to get paid next week. I'm good. But it was definitely... some of those principles that, my dad taught me that started to come into mind or whatever. So, growing up, I wanted the Jordans and, the hot shoes that everybody else had. Dad's like, nope, when you get a job, you can get them yourself. So my first job was actually at Murray's on Plymouth and, it's in Rayford, so Plymouth Road. And there, it's funny that Murray's is a jewelry store in there that my dad worked at. My dad's a jeweler. Jacob the jeweler is funny. When I get my first check, you know what I'm saying, and I went to think about going to buy them shoes, I'm like, bro, that's gonna take my whole check? Nah, I'm good. Like, I kind of carried that on, man. You know what I'm saying? So I never did have Jordans early, you know what I'm saying, even after I got my money or whatever. I still would get nice stuff or whatever, but I wasn't getting Jordans, bro. Like, nah, I'm not paying that much money for no shoes, bro.
Okay. So you didn't...
So I didn't splurge like that, but definitely didn't have a mindset around, like, I need to save, I need to, because one day I might not have this or anything like that. Okay. So when that 9/11 hit, bro, like, I boo-hoo cried. Like, I cried to my dad, man, just like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm so lost, I don't know what to do. You know what I'm saying? The whole nine, man. But it's funny because at that moment, I think sparked in me that I never want to give an employer the control over my life in that type of way. You know what I mean? To where, like, that unemployment check ain't nowhere near what you get paid. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like, like, how am I supposed to function off of this? But, you know what I'm saying, after that, I just kind of went to the hustle, man, and I ended up, like, doing valet driving here for a hospital. I was, I ended up doing, like a accounting type job at a law firm a little bit, which I was also doing IT stuff and all kind of different stuff.
And then, so I was just like, you were on the job hustle, which being on the job hustle as a black man is, when I've been in the job hustle, and I've been definitely in the entrepreneurship world for a while now, but at one point in time I was in the job hustle. For me, I personally will ask this question. It was tough because every time, even the interview, submitting the resume, putting on your good shirt and your good slacks, and you shake hands and you go in the back, so are you guys hiring now? I'm just following up.
Right.
It felt a little embarrassed, a little bit shame, and then a little bit uneasy of like, will this opportunity happen? Will this opportunity happen? Will this opportunity happen? Like, that was always in the back of my mind. Like, just never the assurance. And it may be like this for everybody, but I'm usually walking in places where I don't see any other black man.
Right.
So it's like, am I even like? It doesn't even make sense to walk in here.
Right. And it's funny because I think that I had the benefit of the doubt because of my name. So I go by Jay, but my name is Jacob. And so when I'm putting out resumes, I would pretty much get calls back. Like, you know what I'm saying? Until they see me at the interview and being like, oh, you're Jacob? Okay.
I know, that's the, okay.
Like, oh, right. Okay. Tell me about yourself. So either you know what I'm saying, I wasn't going to get that opportunity because, like, we weren't exactly looking for a black guy, but thanks. Or, like, wow, you really impressed me, you know what I mean, to the point where I'm just like, okay, so maybe I was kind of like defeating some stereotypes at that point, you know what I'm saying, just because like I got that in to because of my name, you know what I mean? Like it's crazy to think about. Yeah. But yeah, man.
That's deep. That's deep. So how many interviews were you going on and how many leads were you juggling at the time? Because that's an art form learning that at a young age.
Oh man. I mean I used to be at this time it was like the career builders and all that kind of stuff and everything like that. Man, I was on that junk like crazy, like submitting applications all over the place. I actually think that I was on Monster as well. I ended up getting an opportunity through Monster, I think at the time, for something. It was some type of program they were doing or something like that, and they invited me to be a part of it. I don't know because they saw so much data coming from my end or what, but it was some type of leadership type deal or something like that or whatever. Man, I mean, I think the biggest thing for me was I was staying cognizant of other people doing amazing things. So I was able to stay motivated, I think from that sense of just, making sure that like either connecting with people or just being aware, I think was a huge benefit to me continuing to keep going. And I think also, at that time, it's kind of like when I just knew for sure that I wanted to kind of get into this foray of entrepreneurship. So my ultimate goal ended up changing to getting a job to sustain my life, to getting a job so I can acquire certain skills so that I can eventually own my own business.
Wow. and with that, some of the questions I would ask, because during this time, as I'm tracking and trending, it's different things happening. The city's taking more interest in what unemployment centers look like, the pop-up shops to help people, the career builder centers. Man, I'm forgetting the name of some of these centers, but I know one was over on Milwaukee. Another was in Southwest Detroit, even to this day, off Michigan Ave. I want to say it's like the Serve Center or whatever. Like those different places.
Like the Michigan Works.
Yeah, the Michigan Works departments. That's exactly what I was thinking. The Michigan Works departments are looking to be a little bit more engaged, especially with Governor Granholm. Did you take advantage of those resources? How active did you think that those resources were helping people? It's mixed reviews, I know I've heard.
Right. I think through unemployment, there was like a forcing you to kind of navigate those systems or whatever. Because if you didn't, you wasn't getting unemployment. But I think that, I had the benefit of, taking some of these odd jobs and stuff like that. Like I said, valet ended up being, like I was able to kind of find these valet jobs quite consistently. I ended up doing it like more so full time at Rayford Hospital, which was amazing to think about. Like valet at a hospital, like it's a no brainer to me. I don't know why more hospitals don't do it because how many handicap spots does a hospital have? Not many because there's a hospital. But I don't recall really navigating a lot of those that much. I think a lot of opportunities I was either able to get, like even the Henry Ford valet, that was through somebody I knew at church that was managing that, and he was like, yeah, come through. So a lot of jobs ended up coming from, a connection, a network, or something like that.
Tapping back into the network.
Yeah, which I think
a lot of people do.
Yeah, which I think was the, at that time, was the saving grace for me. So it's like, oh yeah, like, my work ethic being able to, speak for me, I think in a sense, and give me additional opportunities. But even now, the job that I do now with Grow Detroit Young Talent, I'm telling young people all the time, I'm just like, put in the work. Like, even if you don't like this job, like, put in the work and show them that your work ethic, because you have no idea who's on the back end. Like, you apply for another job and they reach out to, this job and they just like, don't hire the guy. Or, oh my God, they're amazing. We so sad that we couldn't keep them on longer, or whatever the case may be. You just never know, man. So I'll tell hears that all the time.
I know for me, it's never like, don't hire that guy. It's just probably I'm not going to, I'm not going to sing the same accolades. I'm like, yeah, I know.
Right.
Right. And then somebody else.
Right. I'm not going.
They don't work perfectly.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And that's how I approach it too. Like if somebody just like, hey, what do you think about this person? If I ain't really care for them too much, like, they're okay. All right.
Yeah. Exactly.
But would you recommend hiring them? I mean, depending on the job.
Yes. Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
exactly. I mean, if that's.
But I'm not about to be like straight up like,
the
don't
vision of
do
your
it.
business is for someone to show up late,
right,
and not work. Yes, hire them.
Right.
Well, depending.
Right.
So definitely, as that goes, you're shifting to entrepreneurship. How did that start?
So throughout this journey, I ended up deciding that I was going to start looking for opportunity outside of Detroit. So for the first time in my life, I was able to move. So let me back up a little bit. The opportunity with GM came from Votech. Later on in life, I stayed connected with a lot of those people from Votech. I remember there was a presentation that was done at school for like linemen, like dealing with DTE, the energy company, whatever. So years later, I ended up contacting back one of those people that came to do a presentation, and they were doing pretty much like apprenticeships for DTE. So that I got an opportunity to get into, again, like a starting over, learning something new process. So I translated my CAD skills and all that kind of stuff to electrical this time.
So the linemen, when you speak of linemen that get up and work the poles.
Right. So they came to our school was telling us about that. So they were just like these guys make, ridiculous amount of money. And, we did the little tours and all that kind of stuff, whatever.
They sell you on that.
Until you realize, like, I don't want to take that chance of get my arm blown off for this nice 80, because it's like you make one mistake, like
not just that,
boom, you go.
Not just that, the weather conditions.
Oh yeah,
like you think of it. I got a homeboy that's into that. And he works hard at that. As he's transitioned a couple of times through AT&T through it. And he talks about it. Like he'll travel the country doing the work. And anytime that, like, let's put it like this. Most times that you're really getting that work is when the power goes out.
Right, exactly.
And sometimes when the power goes out, it's snow. Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
So it's like, woo!
So, yeah, that was like an instant no for me when I realized that. I was just like, up there, how much money? Okay.
And then,
I'm not willing to take that bet.
And ladders don't seem that tall until you want them.
Right.
You get up on that fourth rung, you be like,
I mean, all the equipment and stuff, you climbing up there, you hope somebody cut the line. Like, nah, I'm straight. But anyway, they still had other opportunities too, and so I was able to tap into it. So I ended up being what they call it, like service planner or something like that for DTE. So I did that for I think a couple of years actually, and that opportunity allowed me to be able to look at opportunity outside of Detroit.
Okay.
So the first place I went was actually West Palm Beach, Florida. I was doing work for Florida Power and Light. And which is crazy because, like, I'm so this young, I'm in my early 20s at this point, and going to Florida, the weather's great, what I'm saying, like all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
it was cool, what I'm saying, and even there, like, I didn't know a lot of people there, so I ended up getting another job. I ended up working like at Best Buy or whatever, just what I'm saying, bringing in some extra money, but also occupy my time or whatever. But at the time when I first got there, though. I didn't have a place yet. And my car, my car payments were past due, at this point. And I ended up having to turn my car in. But right before I could turn my car in, my friend at the time, who was actually the senior at Cody High School when I went there, he was in Orlando for, a job opportunity. Between Orlando and West Palm Beach is like 3 hours or so. Mm-hmm. I stayed with him at his hotel in Orlando. And went to work every day in a 3-4 hour trip.
That's right.
Until I found the place, what I mean?
That's young people.
So it's just like
you cutting away at your money every day you work with that gas money.
But I'm like, man, I got to get the hustle, bro. I got to do what I got to do. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Especially considering, the experience of catching the bus, and you know what I'm saying. Like if I can get up early to catch the bus, to catch the bus.
That's 3 hours.
Right, exactly.
I'd rather be in my own ride listening to T.I. than on the freight with my headphones listening to T.I.
and actually, Florida is not a bad place to have to sleep in your car either. So.
Yes, true.
So I ended up getting my own place and stuff there or whatever. But it was a great experience. There was some false promises with that job or whatever. When I got there, they was like, yeah, you just, put in a couple months or whatever the case may be, then we'll bump up your pay. That didn't happen. A couple months later, still didn't happen or whatever. So I was only there for maybe a year and a half or something like that. And then I found another opportunity up in Albany, New York. And the crazy thing is, again, what I said previously was that after I got laid off, I started getting into the mindset. It was just I just want to make as much money as I can to be able to, and learn these particular skills so I can start my own business or whatever the case may be. So when I went to Florida, my mindset was I'm willing to go wherever I got to go to make as much money as I can so I can come back home and, contribute to home in Detroit. And so, again, after getting laid off, I'm just I've been laid off a couple more times after that. I was like, my loyalty to the employer doesn't exist anymore. You know what I mean? So at this point, I'm just if there's another company offering me a considerably amount more money, I'm out. That's it. Yeah. So went up to Albany, New York. There was opportunity there. They was willing to pay more and pay for me moving and everything. I'm in Albany, New York. People are how the hell did you go from Florida to Albany, New York? Yes.
one of the warmest places to one of the coldest places.
Right. They get more snow than we do. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah,
it's just sure it's pretty ridiculous. And it's boring as I don't know what. I'm sorry for all the people listening that might be from Albany, but it's a very boring place.
Hilarious. Actually, Northern New York has a different, let's put it
you say New York, people just
New York City. New York, the state, it's kind of like Michigan. Yeah. Outside of Detroit, it's some pockets here and there, but for the most part,
Yeah, so, and we're talking about it's the capital too, so Lansing ain't really popping like that either. You know what I'm saying? No. So it's Albany is like that. And so
it's like the club closing at 9:30. You oh man.
I mean, it was actually some friends that I went to high school with that were from Albany. So I'm hitting them up where should I live? Where should I do in Albany? They're like, yo, you gotta live on Lark Street. So I'm up here finding a place on Lark Street, man, and it's dead as I don't know what. It's
I'll be going
it's one it's two little bars or something like that. I mean, it might be different now, but back then, man, it was brutal. But it was an important time for me to be able to collect my thoughts.
For somebody in their 20s.
Right, exactly.
Right now, you probably be like, this is what I need.
It's right. I think it ended up still being what I needed because it gave me an opportunity to sit back and be like, okay, what do you want to do next? What do you want your life to be? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I had that quiet time to do that. And so it was I think Albany was actually a pivotal time for me at that point in time. And I ended up going from Albany to Philly. I actually got a job in Princeton, New Jersey. So I was living right between Philly and Princeton.
Okay.
So for the first time in my life, realizing that there's places that so this whole entire state of New Jersey, you cannot pump your own gas. Mm-hmm. It's all full service, which took some getting used to being from Detroit, where when I was younger they had full service and self-serve. You could choose to being all self-serve to out here just you better not touch that gas pump. It's literally illegal. But again, just taking advantage of opportunity. Actually, when I first moved there, I actually had a job in Reading, PA. I was there for all of maybe 2 weeks, if that. But before I moved to this other job,
new mentality is my better opportunity. I'm on it.
And it's crazy because my dad was just like, "Listen, you need to stay somewhere and hold. You know what I'm saying? Build somewhere." I said, "Dad, that mentality is gone. That doing employers. There's no pension. There's no, you know what I'm saying?
The loyalty they have to me.
Exactly. There's no
echo
that doesn't exist anymore." And my dad was just like, "All right, well, you just go live your life." You know what I'm saying? I'm like, "Dad, things are changing. I'm good. Trust me." And it's crazy because not long after that, he ended up getting laid off from his job. For the
first time ever.
Yeah, and the long as far as I know, you know what I mean, getting laid off, and he hadn't found a job after that for ended up being at least another year.
And let's speak to that as just the economist in me, all the economist studies I've taken, and that's why it's tough when it's two figures that are often used to explain the the status of of a place in economics. One is GDP, which can always be manipulated because what includes in the gross domestic product can be changed around. And I will argue the gross domestic product is like an index of like, the 20 best selling goods in a country, state, or whatever, usually a nation. And to me, I question that, especially in America, with the cross trend of like how much, even if it's an Apple, is that Apple American? Nowadays, you have to question a lot of these products. Like, is an iPhone American? Like, are these companies even American? That's one thing. And unemployment, especially, because you're on the books for unemployment for 6 months. After 6 months, you're known as a displaced worker. Like, you're seen as if you're not even looking for work. Right. And it also, unemployment often neglects to acknowledge a lot of people that are underemployed as well. And in a place like Detroit, it's so many workers that have been displaced for years, but they're being looked at as, you obviously don't want a job. Right.
They're not even getting counted in that unemployment number.
So you look at it and you look at the unemployment figures for Detroit and you say to yourself, a person living in Detroit, like, how is it only 8%? That's how it's 8%. Because it's counting people that have lost their jobs in the past 8 months. Laid off is still sort of looked at, often looked at differently. So it's who's pulling from the unemployment rolls. But that is not a true reflection of people that are seeking quality work to sustain a quality of life.
Absolutely. So, and then too, I mean, even just saying with those numbers, also not reflecting the number of jobs that people that are employed having to do in order to sustain. Yeah. Like, most people working 2-3 jobs. You know what I mean? Like, that's not a good sign. You know what I'm saying? Like, but I mean, if you want to say that unemployment is down, like, sure. Yeah. But like, what I'm saying, if
coming off the echoes of what the State of the Union address that our president just made, and I'm sure tonight our governor is making a State of the State address where she will speak to those figures as well, which I don't think are figures that we should embrace as a nation.
For sure. We just have to change how we measure our economy, period. Yes. Like, GDP is just not an adequate tool for how we measure anything of substance when it comes to being American and what that means.
Yeah, I agree. So now I wanted to give that, as you were speaking about your father experiencing a layoff for the first time. And this is just kind of like this trend that's been taking place for our whole lifetime. But really, I would say maybe even 20 years before. So maybe since 1955, the trend away from the industrial age into the information technology age, which was kind of connected through automation. Right. Shout out to Jimmy Boggs and everything he wrote from the Negro Workers Hand Guide. But it's a lot of information on that. And just that gateway to this information technology age, not being able to sustain so many people. And like, that's not looked at as success. Andrew Carnegie, Henry Ford, Van Buren, even, the Rockefeller family, it was with pride they looked at saying, I have over 100,000 workers. Whereas now, the greatest organizations are with pride saying, hey, we're in a room the size of your closet, and we make billions of dollars.
Right, exactly.
Off of selling data.
Right. And it's crazy because, like, even when we talk about the transition from the South up to the North, I mean, you had people that, they didn't move their whole family initially. They came up and they had to get them 30, 90 days or whatever it was at that time, first. Yeah. Because you weren't an actual full employee until you made it past those 90 days, whatever the case would be. And even what that looks like from, from a perspective of opportunity for, temporary housing. You had people that open up their houses to people like, you had people that have rooms in their house, rent out rooms.
Yeah,
to hear those stories, man, and that just hustle, like, we go, this is the reality, we go find a way. You know what I mean? But, for somebody like my dad to, try to incite some knowledge on me, just like, listen, like, this is how this works. You go somewhere, you work, and hopefully retire from there. And that was a reality. It was a reality, what I mean, at that point. For him, where he came up.
And many people,
And then the way it's changing now is more so, like, from my standpoint was, Like I'm going to go where the opportunity is, and if that's a year, if I've been only here for a year, like when I was in Albany, I had to sign a contract because they helped me move, so I had to sign a contract for staying there for 2 years, I think it was. Mm-hmm. And so, I did my time.
It's probably like a year and 6 months. You were looking at what other opportunities exist.
And it's funny because, even within that, I thought that moving from automotive and getting laid off left and right, going into electrical was going to be a saving grace in the sense of like not having to worry about getting laid off because like everybody needs power. Sustainability. Everybody doesn't need a new car. So I thought I was good. But deregulation happened in that industry and, incoming, layoff. I knew that layoffs were on the verge. So I was actually, trying to, at my job I ended up having at Princeton, I tried to leverage that to move back home because at this point I'm just like it's time for me to go back home. This is pre-2010 and so I actually tried to see if they can transfer me because I was still in the power industry, transfer me to DTE because they were one of our clients or whatever, and there was no positions available here. And so I made the decision that if I don't get laid off by a certain time, I'm just quitting and I'm moving back home. And literally came down to almost the wire of like kind of my internal deadline. And I ended up getting laid off. But I was literally on the verge of like I'm bouncing. I don't care what happened. I'm going home. And I ended up getting laid off. So my entrepreneurial journey was able to get kicked off in 2010 when I moved back here. And I was able to at least float myself with unemployment for a while.
Okay. And what was the first thing you jumped into as an entrepreneur? And one of the terms people use nowadays is serial entrepreneur. And I don't know how I feel about that term. I don't know how you feel about it either. Because I'm still making my mind up about it because I think it kind of, in my mind, that term serial entrepreneur kind of, it dilutes the journey of what we are. We're creating opportunities to engage with products and services, but also experiences and connect with people. So that shifts, but making it like to call it like serial almost makes it seem as if like that one part of our journey ends and then the next one starts or vice versa, where I believe it's all interconnected.
For sure. I think part of it is probably because, there's kind of like this
the buzzword
misunderstanding of a difference between an entrepreneur and a business owner. You know what I'm saying? From I have one business and I'm focused on that to would you call yourself a serial business owner? You know what I mean? Yeah. So I think that's probably kind of just not to take away from the people who are business owners and consider themselves entrepreneurs, but I'm kind of like I'm not stuck in one industry or field or something like that or whatever. I don't know. But again, buzzwords.
It could be, yeah. I mean, it's a sexy word right now.
Right,
you know what I'm saying? 2 years from now, it'll be like something else.
Right. I think, when I first came back, I wanted to work directly with someone who had their own business. So shout out to Brandon Smith, who owns Star Factory. So he has a artist development company. So I hit this man up. I said, listen, man, I really want to just be able to learn and kind of just be able to see, how a day-to-day, business is how it goes for you. And, be willing to support it, whatever. So I kind of offered myself for free to be able to, just support, this other black man's business. And, learned a lot, going in there every day, That's saw what that grind was.
That's where we met and connected originally. And shout out to Brandon, too. What he does, explain a little bit about what they do, because what they do is very unique, and I don't know how many people know or connect with it.
For sure. Star Factory, from an artist development standpoint, they do everything from vocal training to, learning dance, learning. If you want to learn he believes in teaching artists how to be there like a full, being able to do a lot of stuff in-house, where they don't have to necessarily, at least if they're going to hire other people to do the work, that they're familiar with some of the concepts, whether it's to produce a song or to
write a song,
write a song, so songwriting, all that kind of stuff, publishing, also writing for other people, not everybody's going to be an artist, so, songwriters also have I think oftentimes are underrated. And, you know what I'm saying? We have a lot of talented songwriters in Detroit. You know what I'm saying? Like, you just don't know that they write some of your favorite songs. You know what I'm saying?
You got that right. You got that right.
But, you know, them royalties, though. You know what I mean? So, like, teaching about that and stuff like that. But he's continued to expand his business from what I've seen way back then to even now. He's doing some work over at Cass, so you know what I'm saying he is working with Big Shine with the studio over at Cass High School, and so those kids are having an opportunity within their school to you know what I'm saying tap into you know seeing if this music thing is something that they want to do, you know what I mean, which is powerful I think as well. But it's crazy because it's again the way the world is connected, man. I had first met Brandon years prior on the porch of a friend from over on Joy Road. One of the girls I went to high school, or we went to elementary school together. And, you know what I'm saying, I was going to talk to her or whatever, and he was on her porch or whatever. And I had handed him a pamphlet for this organization I was starting at the time. He's like, and even tell the story now, he's just like, man, I was thinking like, who the heck is this guy coming over with this professional with this fucking pamphlet? No.
Yeah.
But it's crazy because, like, you know, we figured that out, you know what I'm saying, long after we had already been talking and stuff like that. We're just like, yo, I remember you.
It together.
Yeah. But, I mean, for him to be able to open his doors, man, and be able to let me, you know, get an insider on that journey, you know, I had really dove into working with a girl group and all this kind of stuff over there. And, I mean, I learned a lot, man. It was insane.
Now, talk a little bit about that because it is a lot of young people that want access. And doing that does take a presence of mind, patience, and also dedicating time to that craft. And so many entrepreneurs love sharing because you love what you're doing like it's a child. It's your baby. Love to share it, but oftentimes may never get the chance. What you did was really an organic apprenticeship. You just went about it your own way. Talk about what it was like being an apprentice and then also just knowing how entrepreneurs are. You know, from being a dedicated apprentice, you're eventually opportunity will open up where you're going to end up making some money too. And opportunities will just flow to you because it's like, wow, they've shown their dedication, where now dedication becomes, it's good having this person around, where you kind of become, I want this person around, where now you're necessary to the operation.
Right.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
So I think that when I came, you know what I mean, there were some areas that I was, you know, actually I was going to school for entertainment business at the time, Full Sail University. Online, which is an amazing school. Shout out to them. I mean, the process there is very much like you're learning exactly what you're going there for. it makes so much sense. Like every school should be formatted that way versus like learning just abstract things that really don't touch on the career that you're actually striving for. But I think for him it was I guess a little bit easier to be able to accept me in because I was saying that I wanted to offer something versus just shadow. Because like, you know, if you're a busy entrepreneur, like, you know, you don't have time to like create a schedule and like a to-do list for somebody. But if somebody's there and it's just like, yo, actually, can you do this for me? Got you. You know what I mean? Like, you know, so I was able to, you know, get involved with creating some, you know, some collateral, like whether it's for some marketing stuff, some social media stuff, you know what I mean? Like, and sometimes it was just being in the studio and just like observing and, you know what I'm saying, seeing how he connects with the artist and, you know, the challenges, the ups and downs. Like I said, I had, you know what I'm saying, from some of the money I saved and stuff like that, I invested in a girl group as well. So, you know, we ended up traveling to Atlanta to meet with record labels and all that kind of stuff, whatever. So, you know, at some levels of that, you know what I'm saying, I was putting my money up also, you know what I'm saying, to support, you know, this group. But I don't know. I mean, I would love to have Brady here to talk about it because, you know what I'm saying, I wasn't the only one. You know what I mean? He was able to bring other people on board and, you know what I'm saying, build networks that now other folks are either working at radio stations or they're established artists and it's all started from a passion, you know what I'm saying, not something that, you know, maybe he started, you know, thought that he wanted to do outright.
And I tip my hat to you, like I say, just to to take the initiative to start your own apprenticeship program.
Right, which
without
wasn't thinking about that.
Without like a format where know like some organization put it together.
For sure.
He gets a grant and you get a stipend. And, every other Saturday we're gonna sit. And it's like, what you want to do today? I don't know. Like, what you want to learn? I like music, but I kind of only like ska. And it's like, I don't know how to do that. You know what I'm saying? But you just kind of found the way, and then that's like you really learn. I think that's very admirable and humbling. Like I say, it's like in a lot of ways, some of the things you've done, it's like, damn, that was like a real effective way of doing it.
And it's like, what I'm saying, and for me, it's like, how do we open up more doors and opportunity for that to happen for young people? Because I think the assumption is that, you just need to get out there and get it. And that's cool, and that works for some people, but not for everybody. Some people do need a little bit of hand-holding, or they do need to be pointed in the right direction. Like, bro, let me just turn you over here. Go that way. You know what I mean? And, it's not a one-size-fits-all strategy. You know what I mean? So, like, what might work for me, what I'm saying? Because at the time,
with the next.
So, like, I was definitely afraid of networking and stuff like that. It wasn't until the Detroit Black Expo events and stuff like that I started going to and starting to hear, like, Akeem Harris, talk about, I love telling the story. Like, we were at Cobo Hall. It was a room of about, I don't know, like maybe 60 people or so, right? He literally had everybody introduce themselves, and as the person introduced themselves and talked about what they did, he instantly made a connection for them. Hey, you need to talk to so-and-so, and their number is 313, blah, 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 blah. And he did that for the entire room. And, like, even in the room, he was making interconnections. So if somebody stood up and said, hey, like, I do, I'm doing soaps and all this other kind of stuff. We need to get with them because they have a studio for, what I'm saying, whatever. And for me, at that moment, I was just like, bro, I want to be a networker. Like, I want to be out here talking to people and, like, connecting dots for people. You know what I mean?
He's definitely, he's to come soon on Detroit is different. We've been texting. He's always traveling with the Negro Business League and a lot of stuff. But I will relay that message, and I can already hear kids saying, oh, man, well, Jay already, brother, knew that.
Right.
Like, kid.
Right, just take it. But yeah, I mean, it was at that moment because I was like still afraid to, public speaking wasn't the thing for me. You know what I'm saying? Like even just trying to being in a networking thing, right? Being in a networking thing is one of the most intimidating things on the planet for some people.
For somebody at your age and then with your experience,
and you're not. And I'm not no well-accomplished entrepreneur. You know what I'm saying? I don't have a name for myself. Like, I'm introducing myself. I don't know I don't know the latest about sports and all this other kind of stuff. So what am I going up and saying to somebody?
Yeah.
So at the time, I decided that my thing would be, I'm going to ask people, like, what are they passionate about? I'm not going to ask about what you do for a living. Like, you know what I'm saying? None of that matters, really. Like, at the end of the day, I want to know what drives you. You know what I'm saying? Like, what's your passion?
And so I responded with when you asked me that.
And I'm like, I'm saying, like, a lot of people are taken back for me because they're so used to being asked, like, what do you do? Like, oh, well, I work this job or whatever. But when you ask what your passion is, you just like, well, I do. Oh, wait, what? What is my passion? Wow, nobody ever asked me that. And so, like, I kind of created my life in doing that because I didn't know what the heck else to talk about. I don't know how to make just, random conversation. Small talk is just terrible for me. So I had to kind of find a way. But I mean, a lot of these things, a lot of these tools and stuff like that, we have to make available for people and not try to put everybody in the same box. Same thing with like trying to make sure everybody goes to a 4-year college and also that kind of stuff. Like my story is not 4-year college. My story is community college and apprenticeships and internships and, jumping out on faith and just, doing whatever is necessary. You know what I mean?
Sometimes staying in your homeboy hotel room. Right. Just to be at an orientation.
You got to do what you got to do. You know what I mean? Yeah, man. So I think it's important to tell these stories. So I definitely commend you for, creating a platform to be able to tell those stories. Yeah. And just being real with people, man.
Okay, and we're getting, man, I'm going to have to bring you back because some of the stuff that we talked about beforehand, I didn't even really get a chance to get into. But I do want you to share in entrepreneurship because there's many projects and programs that you've been connected with. What are some of the things that you're focusing on now that you see happening next, and what are you excited about?
So like I said, right now, I'm working at with GDYT right now, Gordy Choice Young Talent. The application is open right now until May 1st. So it's crazy because my journey has taken me to, from me asking people what their passion is to me getting into my passion, which is connecting the dots, or being networking and all that kind of stuff. So it has transitioned from kind of like this kind of adult side of it to saying, what can I do for our young people so they get acclimated or get these tools earlier on. You know what I mean? And so that's what I'm doing right now with GDYT. Hopefully, I have a project that's on the table that I think that can help GDYT get to the next level, that can provide opportunity for a larger group. Right now we're doing about 8,000 every year, which is cool, which is, it's a mixture of funding and, jobs available, all that kind of stuff. But I think there's a lane that we can play, connecting young people to other opportunities that's outside of GDYT as they apply for GDYT.
Yeah.
Because we have them, they're coming. So let's figure out a way to help connect the dots for them. So working on that right now. And then as far as my business, Social Sushi, again, starting as a networking event, using sushi as a way to bring people together, has become, have formed into wanting to create a sushi lounge, so where I can literally be the place that people come to versus me going to a bunch of different places. And now we're kind of pivoting because now, as Detroit continues to change, my
business model.
My model, or how I go about doing, how I go about connecting those dots and stuff like that is changing a little bit. And so now I'm kind of focused more on kind of like a fast casual model, still baked in with ways that we can connect people to community projects and stuff like that. So my social kind of entrepreneurship, aspect is still baked into this business model, but one that can sustain, or what's the word I'm looking for? Forget what the term I'm looking for. It's one of those buzzwords. I can't think of it.
Sustain,
but
flourish.
But basically I want this business model to be able to
okay. I think what you're going at is more so be something that can replicate, that can continue to grow in different places and different facets,
for sure,
so that it can impact other communities.
Absolutely, because I don't want the business to be a static thing where it only exists in Detroit or only exists within this community. I want to be able to go to other communities and it looks and feel different because of where it's at. But underlining, we're profitable. You know what I mean? So I want to be sustainable in that sense. But the community aspect of things, I just want to be able to bring people to the table, or organizations that are doing amazing work. Because I tell people all the time, I remember growing up and seeing, whether it was in the pizza shop or the corner store or whatever it was, there used to be pictures of the local softball team or the the cheerleading team or whatever like that, because that business contributed to that program. You don't see that as much these days. Not saying that businesses don't give back, but it's just like that kind of outward, like, hey, like, check this out, like, this is something that we should all support. So I kind of just want to kind of bring a new age kind of thought process to that. We have a lot of organizations, a lot of community programs and stuff like that are vying for the same type of funding and stuff like that. And I think that there should be some focus on creating business or businesses that could, like, its purpose is to feed these organizations. As long as, if you're coming to support my business, it's where we going. It's kind of got this cycle where it's going back into the organization. And you're going to continue to bring people to my business. And, probably could explain that better, but that's kind of where my mind is.
I understand. It becomes as you talk about sustainability, it also becomes a motto, out of that vision of the International Detroit Black Expo, Black Business Expo, it becomes a motto where it feeds into itself. It becomes an ecosystem in a lot of ways where the business is a place and space for people to connect, but as those people connect, they invest in the business. Their business then turns around and reinvest in their visions or their programming, or you use the example of the softball team, but it could be whatever. Absolutely. Those projects are not programming, and then vice versa. It brings back more synergy in and around, like creating what
even from the standpoint of my employees, man. Like I know that, there are some people that are very much into the culinary arts world that work in food, but there's a lot of people that, no, this is just a transitional thing. Like, I'm just doing this to make some money so I can move on to my thing. I want to understand from my employees what that thing is, and how I can help them connect the dots. And that way, when they transition from working for me, like hopefully I've helped them get to the next level for whatever it is that they want to do, and then they'll be return customers. And not only return customers, but they're more than likely to refer somebody to come work for me we can keep this thing going. You know what I mean?
It builds a stronger relationship.
Absolutely.
I'll tip my hat to that. And if anybody would know how to break that barrier of not just looking at a job as a job, and I got to be for mine and they for theirs.
Right.
You know, and really, I guess the economic term in that is, you know, employment in a workplace cannot be so transactional.
Right, exactly.
You know, It needs to be more holistic, more intimate, so that the relationships are better. You know,
Absolutely.
if you have an understanding of the child care dynamics of your staff, then your staff has an understanding and a respect for the business projects and programming at hand. Now we can work around things in a creative way, as opposed to just like 9 to 5.
Exactly.
You know
what I'm saying? I get chefs that are artists. You know what I mean? I want to connect them to projects. I want them to be able to be like, bro, salute, thanks, I'm out of here. You know what I'm saying? They'll be more willing to put in their 2 weeks. Maybe 2 weeks with, hey, I know another guy that's looking for opportunity.
And that's
if you can connect them, you know what I mean? Yeah. But yeah, like, you know, I always want to create the space where, you know, if like I said, anything that my staff is looking to accomplish beyond our 4 walls, you know what I'm saying? Like, I want to be able to connect the dots for them. And that's, you know what I'm saying? And that requires me to continue to stay connected to my community, you know what I mean? Also, you know, so I can help facilitate that. But yeah, man, that's where I'm at though.
Well, I definitely look to have you back sooner than usual. Usually I like to always spread it out maybe like a year or whatever, but I want to bring you back maybe in a couple months so we can talk a little bit about some of the community development business programming, how you see it as somebody that has been awarded some community development business programming awards, and how you see that. And then really, more so than the awards in the programming now, how do you see our community can invest in business? And that question I do want to ask you now. I really just got to be greedy on this.
Sure.
But how do you see in a city like Detroit that faces the challenges it faces, what are ways that Detroiters, the residents, the homeowners, the renters here that plan on being here, can support businesses like yours morphing, taking shape, and building and developing?
So I think there's something to be said about the reality of people needing a place to live, and how it can connect to the businesses that need to serve those people, right? So I think that there could be a real estate project that invests in real estate, offer. I was just trying to explain this idea to somebody else the other day. But offer, whether they're selling the house or renting it, but like, you know, if they're connecting this homeowner to resources so they can have a lower down payment or something like that, whatever. Mm-hmm. But say that, you know, we're going to additionally add on to that with these particular dollars, with a understanding that you will participate in these. I mean, it's not a requirement. It's just more so of like, we're able to offer you this opportunity only because like we're creating this system to where if we're able to offer you this, you're committing to support these particular businesses within the neighborhood. You know, particularly around where they live and even beyond, but particularly for, you know, I'm looking at areas that need a lot of
that support.
A lot of support, and also to attract businesses that from residents themselves or anybody that wants to build in that neighborhood.
And a lot of those projects for community development fall along the lines of some of what the president was just speaking about in the State of the Union address. As I've been pursuing the option to be a vendor in the federal contracting world for Creative Differences Marketing, it's my vision, if somebody's listening, to do tutorial videos for federal government organizations and agencies. But this neighborhood itself is labeled as what they call a hub zone, an opportunity zone. So these hub zones and opportunity zones, as Nipsey Hussle's neighborhood in Compton, on Slauson and everything, his neighborhood is looked at in Inglewood, close to Inglewood and everything, is looked at it's money really tied to this from federal dollars.
Right.
That's now being siphoned off through programming that's held through not necessarily banks, but banking-like institutions that are these community development-based community development financial institutions.
CDFIs, yeah.
These CDFIs are serving as intermediaries, often banks. So some of them, like with First Independence Banks, the Detroit Development Fund, a lot of CDC, so community development corporations or organizations have done this, and they're receiving granting based on leveraging the disparities that exist in communities like mine,
Right.
primarily around Black people, primarily around poverty, primarily around racist and systemic racist systems like redlining and the onus that some government agencies have taken. But they've leveraged millions of dollars in funding because some of this information is online, and then look to siphon into businesses like yours through this programming. So as I say, the neighborhood should invest. How do you feel that the community itself can have more of a say than more so than just like, sometimes I know they'll say like a community member needs to be a part of this board or, like how can the community speak up to also the way that funding is distributed? Because many people are, I think, unaware of the way some of this funding is siphoned off into the multiple millions and billions of dollars through the federal government, leveraging places like Detroit, Harlem, Philadelphia, Newark, New Jersey, New Orleans, just our community.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a tough nut to crack in the sense that when it comes to community engagement, like real community engagement, and like finding out what people desire for their neighborhood, right? I feel like there's this process of, we'll say that we talk to the community and they'll offer up all these ideas, but they already know exactly what they want to do beforehand. So like, there's this distrust there from that standpoint, but also just the value of people, right? So like because, whether you live in a neglected area or anything like that, for some reason, the people are viewed as less than or not having, the knowledge to articulate, or just articulate differently. Like they have a different way of articulating what they're trying to say. But just the folks that are going in are not people from that community. And so when you talk about trying to have a community person on board or whatever the case may be, I think there's a education that needs to happen on how to properly engage in the neighborhood, and how to take the ideas, not only take the ideas from the community, or listen to the ideas of the community, but how do you involve them in being the solution themselves? Versus like, hey, like, all right, so you want, Starbucks in your community. No, we wanted a coffee shop, but like somebody in our neighborhood is actually looking to develop a coffee shop. And so how do we make those connections and connect those dots? And I think the hard part too is really getting everybody in a room. Like getting people in a room is very difficult because everybody works different schedules. We're talking about people with 3 or 4 jobs. So it's mostly the same people coming to these community meetings all the time. There might be some people that are kind of like, it kind of tends to skew older, and very vocal.
Because they have more expendable time on hands because they may have been retired. Or not the same, and then even childcare may not be childcare as much. When your child's 40.
And also, they're just connected to the same people that's been disseminating information in the community for years, right? So, like those other folks, those folks that disseminate information aren't necessarily connected with new people on Facebook or, new people within the community because those people haven't even been privy to the community meetings. So, I mean, it's a lot of things. So that's why, like, when I try to think about ideas, it's like, one, like, how do we leverage what should be leveraged, like with those, through the CDFIs and stuff like that. It's hard to figure out how do we create, it's, I guess, the levels, right? So it's like the sounding board, just like hearing everybody's thoughts and views, and then having, these community leaders that now take it up and, take it to another level and are able to articulate on behalf of the community. And finding those people for these different opportunity zones. I mean, I don't know where they all are, but I don't know. It's just, it's a important time right now to take advantage of it because it's here. But how do we hold those folks accountable for whether they're properly, divvying those funds out and stuff like that is a whole other thing that I think that
and then the system
community itself, right?
Yeah, and that's really where I sometimes question, and we'll get really deep into that on that theory. So it's good I laid that on you. Think on that. Classic Detroiters question. Detroiters different questions. I usually have 3. Okay. My last interview I didn't even have 1, rich, but it was a rich discussion as well. But I'm gonna just kick off with. No, I'm gonna kick you with all 3. Very first car, year, make, and model, and what year did you get it?
All right, so my first car was a 1990 Grand Am.
Okay.
Blue, little Betsy. When did I have that car? That was I didn't start driving. I didn't get my license until after high school. So that was my first car around 2002, 3, somewhere around there.
Okay, so 90,
2002, I think it was.
03. How long did it last?
I ran that thing till the wheels fell off.
Okay.
That lasted probably about a good. Maybe around 3 years or something like that.
See, that's where working at Murray's helped out.
Right.
That's where working at Murray's helped out.
But yeah, I mean, my dad gave me that.
Okay,
my first
cool.
car, man. It was great. Damn.
Second question: you're the DJ at the end of the Detroit fireworks at Woodward and Jefferson. What 3 songs you playing?
Ooh. You said it's the end of the fireworks?
Yep.
Let's see. Man, that's a tough one. I'm gonna definitely have to go with and I'm just thinking like Detroit theme songs at this point.
Mm-hmm.
That Renaissance State of Mind. That what's her name? Monica Blairo's on that.
Mm-hmm.
The guy from Pontiac, what's his name?
Roast Spit.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. That was dope. Something from Slum, like definitely got something from Slum.
You don't know? You don't want to pick one?
I'm terrible with names. Like, usually when man.
Okay.
And then something, I guess, older and classic from Motown years, I think. I was gonna say "Hello Detroit," you know what I'm saying? Sammy.
Okay.
But I'm thinking something from Stevie instead.
Okay.
But
yeah. Well,
terrible song names. Like
best concert ever, Stevie Wonder.
Right.
Last question: you could rename Woodward after one Detroiter. Who would be? Why?
I'm gonna have to go with Coleman Young.
Okay.
Well, you know what? Yeah, I'm gonna stick with Coleman Young. My second was gonna be Don Barton. He was my inspiration, entrepreneur inspiration. But David Coleman, just because he set the stage for so much for us as a majority black city. Either whatever you want to view it as good or bad, man. I think what he did was iconic, and especially at the time where there were very few black mayors. And I always go back to the story of I was able to, one of my old teachers, I connected with him. He stayed at the 1800 Lafayette.
Mm-hmm.
And across from him was this older lady, and she was actually part of starting the downtown business district, and the central business district, CBD. And she had all these pictures. Just all kind of just memorabilia from back then. And I mean, talking about everything from like how they used to do at Macy's. I mean, they used to have like Cinderella like moments for girls, and you know what I'm saying, all that kind of stuff. So every girl would come in and be able to be, you know, pampered and all that kind of stuff and everything. But I asked her, you know, like, I mean, she had served a lot of time in city government and stuff like that. And I asked her who her favorite mayor was. And this is an older white lady. I mean, she had to be like 90-something years ago at the time. And she said, no matter what, every time I get asked that question, she said, hands down, it would be Coleman Young. She said, we bumped heads all the time, but, you know, like, had nothing respect. He treated me with nothing but respect. And, you know, I mean, he was just a very intelligent, caring, like, you know, and to hear that narrative from, you know, an older white woman, you know what I'm saying, was like important for me because like I mean, of course, like many of the stories that I know were from a black perspective, and there's stories about the racial, you know, aspects of, you know, whether white folks felt like Coleman was very much against them living in the city, which this lady was just like, that's BS. Like, you know what I mean? But she was very much like, he didn't care about if you were white, black, blue, yellow, it didn't matter. As long as you were for the city, he rocked with you, basically. And I just always carry that with me.
Thank you so much, man.
I appreciate you, brother.
Black revolutionaries, distillery owners, Italian fashion retailers, and Motown Grammy winners all share their best stories never before told in any other media outlets on Detroit is Different. Visit DetroitisDifferent.com or download the Detroit is Different app on Apple's App Store or Google's Play Store.